Hello, good evening. I'll be talking English to you tonight. My name is David Garcia, and I always like to start with this slide, which kind of, if it comes forward, tells a bit about the spirit of our studio. I work as an architect and as a teacher, and on the side we have this experimental platform. And this is also a tribute to the people and the students which help us out. The projects I'm going to be presenting change in scales from very small to very large, but most of them try to test areas and experiment different concepts. This is a machine that connects to your chest, and the idea was to test elements of time, being the breathing of your chest, the first rhythm that we are embedded with. As you breathe in and out, this belt records your breathing pattern and also changes the polarity. And this is connected to a small kind of robot which is attached to you, and as you breathe, it moves to your breathing rhythms and it draws on the floor your breathing pattern. Now, you might ask yourself, what does that have to do with architecture? But in a way, time is perhaps a factor that we think architecture is missing. Here we see the device lit up. It is a symbiotic device, so actually if I fake my breathing and I stop breathing for a minute, it thinks I'm dead and it unplugs itself. We keep testing concepts of time, and in a trip to Los Angeles, I thought, where does time have anything to do in Los Angeles? And perhaps the earthquakes give me the idea to register earthquakes and its breathing patterns. This is a portable seismograph, a very small device that had trouble going through customs at the airport because it looked too much like a bomb. But we got it through, and the element works very simply by pulling it apart, and the two elements at the top catch the vibrations of the surface that it sits upon, and a small pen rotates at that rhythm, and as you move it across the surface, it registers. Again, concepts of time on a much larger scale, in this case, vibrations. Time again. This is a clock, a waiting clock, trying to register the idea of waiting. There is a poem etched on the brass disc that you see at the bottom, and there is cinnamon in that round canister. The idea is that in any waiting situation, preferably in a restaurant, you would turn it on, and as you're waiting, it would just spin, and the more that you wait, the more that it spins, the more cinnamon that falls through the etched poem, and the clearer the poem is that you leave behind. Again, ideas of permanence are tested here, because the moment that you leave, the dust is probably just blown away by somebody else. From these ideas of time, we went into other experiments of larger scale. This is a bookcase, actually two. The one you see in the back is about 12 meters long, and it is supported by the weight of the books. The more books that you remove from the bookshelf, the lower the seesaw goes down, and the chair is lowered. And this is concepts of nomad and book collection, which is the most absurd thing that you can do. But this is a bookshelf made to actually walk inside and literally carry your own bookshelf with you. These ways of challenging space went to this year's conceptual competition in Japan, to challenge concepts of the traditional zoo, which are normally just prisons for animals, and you can see how they're isolated in city structures. Our proposal was to disseminate the zoo and get them in contact with individuals. For that, we tried to scan what are the activities that animals have that are similar to ours. For example, the silence of butterflies in a reading room, and they could be introduced in a library, or the swarm of birds, very much like the swarm of us when we are in a concert. One lifts a hand, everybody lifts a hand, one bird flies left, all the birds fly left. And this went on to say, why couldn't we just swim with animals or with dolphins, just by a glass wall dividing the swimming basin, or a vegetarian restaurant shared with some giraffes? Now, these might be crazy ideas, but they're actually a way of putting into question how the status quo has been going on for so long. Zoos are still what they have been in the last 300 years. This is another conceptual competition to try and challenge the idea of the skyrise. I don't know if you know, but the skyrise started by the invention of the elevator, and it's still dictated by the elevator. It's only a straight building because the elevator cannot twist, and all it does, it gets more expensive, more private and exclusive at the top. So what we did is bend the skyscraper and used it as an urban skylink. In this case to go over the East River in Manhattan. So you have a connection between two areas of a city which are not in touch, and you can use it as a public system to go from one place to the other, have some plazas and stops along the way with private housing and offices in the middle. And you can see that the system we use are just gondolas, which have been able to tackle different angles of transportation and different conditions much better than the elevator has. Again, a way of just stepping out of the box and thinking of how we can use vertical transport differently than we've used so far. A trip to Japan and a study research for a month and a half got me into this mess, which is bamboo. It grows a meter a day. It reaches its full height, which is 15 meters in 30 days. But what we still do with this material is cut it down and get into all these kind of troubles to make it into a foundation. So we cut it down to move it somewhere else and get into these all strange advices and devices to try and make it work, when nature actually does it already with an amazing root system. Each bamboo can take about 1.5 tons of weight. So what we did is propose to the Bamboo Association of Japan to do this type of test, which is let bamboo grow through a floor plate and a roof plate. In 30 days, it would reach its maximum height, it would expand its maximum girth, and trap the floor and the base of a house, for example. So you have a natural system of pillars, which is just done by bamboo. And from that experience, we worked together for a couple of weeks with some weavers in Japan and started into weaving a pavilion together with a scripting method that could imitate different weaving patterns. We're starting to do pavilions, in this case, a 1 to 5. Thank you.